We are going to discuss proofs, affidavits, and title updates. We'll discuss the proof of beneficial use, the affidavit of beneficial use, and then we'll move over to title and talk about the report of conveyance and deed addendums. Now we'll watch a brief video describing more about the final part of the application process.
For part 3 of this video series, let's take a look at what happens once an application is approved by the state engineer and the final steps necessary to perfect a water right through the proof submission and certification process. We will also discuss the process for requesting an extension of time to file proof of beneficial use. Once an application is approved, an approval letter will be sent to the applicant. The approval letter will state the quantity of water approved, the location of the point or points of diversion, and the approved use of water. The approval letter will also specify any conditions to the approval. The approval will also specify a proof due date. Proof is documentation of the completion of works and application of water to beneficial use pursuant to the terms and limitations of an approved application. Proof is submitted via a proof form available on our website. Proof of beneficial use is evidence required by the state engineer before a certificate of beneficial use perfecting the water right will be issued. A 60-day proof due notice is sent to the applicant prior to the proof due date. The applicant has 60 days from receipt of the proof due letter to either submit proof of beneficial use or request an extension of time. An extension of time request provides the applicant additional time to complete a project and put the water to beneficial use. An approved application can lapse even if the water is being put to beneficial use, if neither proof nor an extension of time request is received by the proof due date. We will now discuss the extension of time request for filing a proof or affidavit of beneficial use with the Division of Water Rights. This may be required if the applicant is unable to fully place the approved uses or water quantities to beneficial use. For example, project delays may occur due to financial hardship, construction or land development may fall behind schedule, or ownership may change and the new owner is in the process of updating title when the proof due date arrives. Once an extension of time request is filed, the clock for the proof due date stops. The regional office will review the extension request and recommend that the extension be approved or denied. The regional office will then send the extension request to the applications office for final review. If the applicant has shown due diligence in completing a project and can show progress towards project completion, the applicant may be approved for multiple extension requests. If the extension of time request exceeds 14 years, then the extension request must be advertised in the newspaper, similar to the advertisement of the initial application to appropriate, change, or exchange. If the extension of time request is granted by the state engineer, a new proof due date will be assigned to the application. At this point, the application process moves back to the approved section of the flowchart, and the applicant has until the new proof due date specified on the extension of time approval to file proof or file another extension request. If the extension of time request is denied, then the applicant may file a request for reconsideration and start the appeal process. The appeal process is detailed in the center of the blue section at the top of the flowchart. The appeal process is discussed in Part 2 of the application process video series. We will now discuss the process of filing proof of beneficial use and certification of a water right. If the water uses do not exceed 1 residence, irrigation of 1/4 acre, and watering of 10 livestock, the applicant may be eligible to submit an affidavit of beneficial use. If residential, irrigation, or livestock uses exceed these small domestic usage amounts, then the applicant is required to file a proof of beneficial use. The proof of beneficial use must be submitted by a licensed professional, land surveyor, or engineer. The requirement for a licensed professional to complete the proof ensures an accurate survey and map of the diversion works and place of use. The professional is also required to measure the amount of water diverted using the scientific method, and attest under their license that conditions stated in the proof comply with the conditions of approval mandated by the state engineer. Once the proof or affidavit of beneficial use is submitted to our office, it is reviewed by the regional office area where the water use occurs. There are 7 regional offices that cover 7 separate areas with corresponding boundaries within the state. The regional office staff will check for completeness of the proof or affidavit of beneficial use. The staff will confirm that the uses, place of use, and point of diversion are correct and that any conditions listed in the approval have been met. The regional office staff may visit the location of water use to confirm that the actual uses conform to the approved uses and those listed on the proof or affidavit of beneficial use. If there are issues in the proof or affidavit of beneficial use, then the regional office staff may reach out to the applicant for clarification. The regional office will send the completed draft certificate along with the proof to the application office for subsequent review. If the draft certificate and proof documentation conform to the approval, then the application office issues the final certificate of beneficial use for review by the state engineer. If problems are found with the proof or affidavit of beneficial use, then the application office may request further clarification from the regional office staff or the applicant. Once the certificate of beneficial use is issued to the applicant, they should review the document, check for any errors, and if errors are found, report those errors to the Division of Water Rights. If the applicant believes that they are aggrieved by the decision, then the applicant may file for reconsideration within 20 days of the date of certificate letter. The appeal process is detailed in the center of the blue section at the top of the flowchart. The appeal process is discussed in Part 2 of the application process video series. If no errors are found and the applicant agrees with the certificate, then the applicant should retain a copy of the certificate of beneficial use for their records. The applicant should then file the certificate of beneficial use with the county where the uses occur. It may be necessary to record their certificate in more than one county if the point of diversion or place of use are located in adjacent counties. This is the final step in the certification process. The applicant has perfected the water right through certification and should continue placing the water to beneficial use. This concludes the 3-part video series on the application process.
Submitting proof is generally the final step in perfecting your water right. Proof is submitted once the project is complete. After you have applied for the water right, you should have been issued an order of the state engineer or OSE. If the water right was approved, the order will have a proof due date, which is typically 5 years after the application is approved. It is not mandatory to wait until that date to submit your proof. If you have your entire project done within a year, you can submit proof. There's no penalty for submitting the proof early. Proof of beneficial use is submitted on an application to appropriate, a change application, or an exchange application. The forms for preparing the proof can be found on the division's website, or you can come into the division and pick them up in person. Some forms can also be mailed or emailed by request. The proof must be prepared by a professional, either a professional engineer or land surveyor that's licensed in the state of Utah. They will be responsible for the accuracy of the proof. This includes surveying the point of diversion and place of use, preparing a map depicting the attributes of the water right, and a flow measurement at the point of diversion. Using a professional also lends credibility to the proof document and ensures that all the forms and documents are filled out correctly. Once the proof form is submitted to our office, the regional office for the area where the water right is located will review the proof. Regional office staff may conduct a site visit. The purpose of review is to verify that the water has been put to beneficial use in accordance with the application and to ensure that the proof is accurate and complete. The water user or proof professional may be contacted by the division requesting additional information or clarification. If the proof is unacceptable, for example, missing data, incomplete map, or includes an unapproved use, point of diversion, or place of use, the regional office will attempt to correct those issues with the proof professional and applicant. Occasionally, a proof is significantly different than the original application and approval, and a new change application must be filed. In some cases, the previously submitted proof may be applied to the new application. Small domestic water rights do not require a professional to prepare the proof. An individual water right holder can use the Affidavit of Beneficial Use tool on the division website to submit an affidavit. A small domestic water right is one that has one domestic residence or home, up to a quarter acre of irrigation, and up to 10 livestock. If any of the uses exceed these quantities, a proof must be submitted by a licensed professional. In addition to the documents produced by the Affidavit tool, the water right holder will need a certificate of occupancy, or if your municipality does not issue a certificate of occupancy, a tax notice showing the residential use can be used. The Affidavit tool will help you create a map of beneficial use, which is basically a map of your property showing us where the uses are occurring and where the point of diversion is located. In other words, the tool will help you map where your well, irrigation, and livestock are created. It will combine that together and generate a proof affidavit map for you. Using the tool generally minimizes the amount of time that we have your proof in the processing and review stage. Alternately, you can use the paper form, but you will be responsible for generating an accurate map that meets the mapping standards outlined in the instructions. Once you have completed the form, you will need to print it and will need to be signed by everyone who is listed as an owner on the right. In most cases, if your water right is based on shares of stock in an irrigation company, the irrigation company also needs to sign the proof because they are still the owner of the base water right. Please note, even if you have a small domestic water right, if you don't feel comfortable filling out an affidavit yourself, you can hire a professional to help you file it. Once you receive your certificate, you are responsible to continue using the water for the uses that you submitted in your proof. If you want to change the nature of use, place of use, or point of diversion, you will need to file a change application with the division. The water user may choose to record the certificate with the county recorder's office. Now let's look at water right title and how conveyance of ownership works. Water rights are transferred by deed in essentially the same manner as real estate. They're either transferred by land appurtenance or water deed. Appurtenant water rights transfer silently with the land, which may be the most misinterpreted area of water right title transfer. If the water rights are not mentioned in the land deed, then they transfer with the land as real property to the new owner. People sometimes believe if they don't mention the water rights during a land sale, they are retaining the water right, but the opposite is true. Failing to mention water rights means that they transfer silently with the land. In order to retain the water right, specific language would need to be included in the deed. To convey ownership of water rights, the deed or deeds must be recorded in all counties where the water is used or diverted. The county recorder's office maintains a record of land deeds and addendums. Water deeds and assignments, which are transfers of unapproved or approved but unperfected water rights, are also recorded. Please note the Utah State Division of Water Rights does not have a direct link with the various county recorder's offices. The division relies on the county recorder to send the updated ownership information via email or mail. The records maintained by the state engineer are water right application data, certificates of beneficial use, ownership information, and any other water rights related documents. The owner of record is whoever submitted the original application or anyone that has transferred ownership of the right via an addendum to the deed or report of conveyance. Because the Division of Water Rights is reliant on the water user, new owner, or county recorder's office to relay new ownership information, discrepancies often arise between the two offices. To address this, buyers and title companies should not assume that when property ownership was updated and recorded, water right ownership was automatically updated. The only way that water right ownership is updated by recording a deed is if the deed has a water right addendum attached to it. This is a specific form supplied by the Division of Water Rights that must be signed by both grantor and grantee, completed correctly, and recorded with the deed. A description of the right on the deed itself is not sufficient to update water right ownership. Once a deed with addendum is recorded, the deed and addendum are emailed to the Division of Water Rights by the county recorder's office. If the addendum is acceptable, the water right ownership is updated to grantee listed on the deed. If the deed and addendum are not acceptable, ownership update will require the new owner to file a report of conveyance with this office. If the deed does not include a water right number, then an addendum to the deed can be used. However, if the deed does not reference a water right number, the new owner cannot submit a report of conveyance with deed attached. If the deed does not list the water right number, the prospective owner must hire an attorney, professional engineer, title professional, or professional land surveyor to submit a report of conveyance. The licensed professional will assist the new owner in reestablishing a pertinence between the water right and a specific parcel of land described in the deed. They will also be familiar with the state mapping standards and administrative rules governing submission of maps to the state engineer's office. A separate report of conveyance has to be filled out for each water right to be updated. A report of conveyance must include all deeds showing transfer of ownership from the owner listed on division records to the new owner. For example, if a water right was originally filed in 1900 and no one updated title because it was passed down through a family, the new owner will have to show a chain of title including all deeds from the original applicant through each person, trust, or entity that the title was passed through to the prospective owner. This process may face challenges equal to or greater than transferring title to the land or home. For this reason, it is often beneficial to hire a professional, as is typically done for title transfer during the sale of land or home. This is a 100% conveyance form. As the name implies, if you are updating title on 100% interest of a water right, you would use the 100% interest form. This is a portion form. The portion form would be used if you are only conveying a portion of a water right. For example, a water right has a total of 5 acres of irrigation. You seek to transfer ownership of a quarter acre of irrigation. Using the portion form would allow you to update ownership on a quarter acre and would reduce the grantor's interest in the water right to 4.75 acres of irrigation. Next, let's look at land and water deed addendums. Utah Code 7338 states, "The state engineer shall consider a water rights addendum that is recorded and forwarded to the state engineer by a county recorder as a submitted report of water right conveyance under subsection 3. This means that an addendum may be attached to a land or water deed to convey water rights. It creates a dialogue between the buyer and the seller about which water rights, if any, are being conveyed with the land and which water rights are being withheld. The land or water deed must be signed by both grantor and grantee. The addendum must be recorded with the land or water deed in the county or counties where the water right is approved for use or where the approved points of diversion are located. The county recorder will submit the deed and addendum to the state engineer's office, which will update title to that water right according to the deed addendum. The grantee or the person that is receiving the water right should keep a current mailing address with the Division of Water Rights. Be aware that there are 2 water right addendums. There is the land deed addendum and the water deed addendum. The grantor and grantee should confirm that the correct type of addendum is attached to the correct type of deed. A few key takeaways regarding titles. Many report of conveyance transfer by appurtenance, which may require professionals to submit a report of conveyance. Transfers by appurtenance require a map that meets the state mapping standards. Simple transfers can be completed by the owner as long as the deeds list the water right number. Competing reports of conveyance or title controversy are considered civil matters concerning real property. Civil disputes are resolved through a civil litigation process and not the office of the state engineer. Purchasing and updating ownership to a water right is separate from the purchase and title update to other real property such as land or home. However, both can be very involved and may require the assistance of a title professional. A potential buyer should never rely solely on records kept by the Division of Water Rights. The County Recorder's Office is the office of record for recorded deeds and other documentation concerning the transfer of real property. If you have questions, the Division has a YouTube channel including videos on title, an in-depth look into the application process, the proof process, and more. Additionally, you can call the Division of Water Rights directly and speak with a water rights professional.